I think we sent a message today. I think we definitely did not take these guys lightly whatsoever. We knew how great of a team they were, obviously, so just trying to do everything we can to stop them.
It feels good. I can't emphasize how good St. Joe's is. They're a very, very good team. They're very physical. Their linebackers are really good. Their quarterback played a hell of a game. We got to him, our defensive line wore him down, but obviously, like I said, it feels really good to come out and have the second half that we had. So.
Great program win, and everybody came together. We challenged the defense this week. So everybody was saying that they had a chink in the armor, and they weren't the same defense that they'd always been, and they made a statement today.
I mean, it's satisfying, definitely, but Golden State Championship always. So this is a nice win. Finally stayed our claim as #1 team, but long way to go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bully. Happy Halloween, or post-Halloween.
All Saints Day.
Well, Pete, another Halloween is come and gone.
Indeed, right. It has.
And it was a great weekend of high school football. We are in the home stretch now. We are 3 weeks, 4 weeks, give or take, but everyone's got about 3 games or so before the end of the season, and we get to Thanksgiving. We're almost there. The light, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and things just ramping up this week. We found out that Masuk, still alive, not dead yet, coming back from a 28-point deficit to beat New Fairfield. We saw FCAC craziness. We saw Staples coming back to life, beating Norwalk 20-14, knocking them off and putting themselves back in the race. We saw New Canaan coming back to life. It's like Night of the Living Dead here, Pete. They're coming back to life across the board. The only one who wasn't dead was Darien, would put St. Joseph to sleep. #1 versus #2. You heard a little bit at the top of the show. But let's talk about Wilton. The Warriors talk about coming back to life. A week after beating New Canaan for the first time since 1995, they finally slay their white whale in Ridgefield, 14-7. Their first win since I was a senior in high school, way back in the Stone Age. Pete, once again, I get 1 versus 2, and you got the better game. Go figure.
You know what, dude? You can take all the 1 versus 2s. Everything is played into my favor. But what a game! And you know what? Saturday was supposed to suck. Saturday was supposed to be pouring, rain, sideways wind. We're talking before like, oh, both these teams are going to have to run. No one's going to be able to move the ball. It's going to be a disaster. I got my rain jacket on. I got rain pants. I look like a gigantic, just big ad for REI or whatever that company is. And
no free ads.
Yeah, no free ads. And the sky's open, sun, and a beautiful, well-played football game by 2 really good teams. Not a lot of mistakes. 2 turnovers. Both came in the fourth quarter for Ridgefield. A handful of penalties, but really, really good defense by both of these teams. I mean, You had two good quarterbacks, two good running games, receivers all around, and the defenses bend. They bent, but they didn't break. And, Wilton scored early on a touchdown run by Jake Summer. And then that was really it until the fourth quarter when Keller hit Nick Wright for a touchdown. And then Wilton went down, scored again, and Ridgefield went down again, and they held. It was one of those games where not a lot of offense, but it wasn't boring. Every play, every hit, big celebration, a lot of noise. It was really loud. Wilton's fan base was decked out, filled out. It was huge and loud and packed. Ridgefield traveled really well. It was a really good high school football game. But I will say, when I first got there, I saw the Wilton fans walking in, and they had a tiger head on the top of a flag. I think everyone's stealing Fairfield prep shtick, but it's a heated rivalry. I'm not going to say whether they like each other or don't like each other. I don't really know it that well.
There's no love lost there.
Yeah, but it was awesome. I mean, the weather holding up was really legit because it made it better. You'd have hated for the weather to play a factor in any of the games on Saturday. You know what I mean? Like, we found out a couple of years ago, New Canaan apparently can't throw in the rain. So, how would they have done against Greenwich on Saturday if it rained? But no, it was a great game. And, Wilton was the better team that day, and they were the better team last week. And they are a really, really good team.
Yeah. When we'll talk to head coach EJ DiNunzio on this week's podcast. We got a little interview with him later and get his thoughts on how the Warriors have been rolling. Man, they are 3 wins away and maybe a little bit of help from getting back to the state tournament for the just second time in as many years, which, it took them forever to get there. And they kind of backed in 2019, played St. Joseph. But now it looks like, you kind of wish they had one game back. Maybe the Notre Dame game where they lost on a 2-point conversion. And but Wilton, looks like he's got them rolling. And that's, it's the Wilton we all kind of expected. It's fun. I was talking to Dave Rudin at the St. Joseph Darien game. It's fun to have Wilton kind of in here, throwing their name into the hat. Otherwise, it's just the usual suspects. Yeah, you got a Trumbull in there maybe, which is fun. But, it's nice to get a little bit. We're so tired of Darien, St. Joe, and New Canaan, and maybe even Greenwich,
Yeah, no, it's always like, I said in our interview with Coach DiNunzio, 2 years ago, it was fun when Wilton got it. You were like, oh, yes, Cinderella. You always get a kick out of that when those teams happen and those teams get into the playoffs. And, not that we don't root, but deep down, it's fun to root for those teams who haven't been there in a while, who are making history. It's a better story.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. It is a better story.
And Wilton is climbing ever so slowly up the Class L rankings. They're sitting in there at number 8 right now. It's looking a little bit better. The gloom and doom that we were preaching before the season with the CTC teams. The CTC teams have kind of knocking each other out a little bit. You saw Cheney Tech coming back from their loss to ATI and turning around and knocking off Thames River. They were down 20-6, won that game 26-20. We saw Northwest United coming back, beating Quinnebog Valley, Jen's team. They've won 3 straight, knocked Quinnebog Valley off. And now all of them have one loss, and it's not a guarantee that more than one gets in. I still think one gets in, but it's looking less and less like that. And other teams like Masuk now. Let's talk about Masuk for a little bit. Yeah, we had a big week in the FSAT, but Masuk just look utterly lost in the first quarter and change against New Fairfield. We thought New Fairfield was going to have trouble, but Masuk down big early. Jason Caswell pulling off a 14-yard touchdown run. Justin McCormick, the quarterback, busting loose down the right sideline for a 45-yard touchdown run. And then Caswell takes a short pass and goes 66 yards down the left sideline. And oh my goodness, it is 21-0 New Fairfield after 1. And then finally, midway through the second quarter, Ryan Faded collects the 20-yard touchdown pass from McCormick. And it's 28-0. Rebels rolling. This is their big win. They get this. They're not quite guaranteed, but it goes a long way in helping them out in Class S where every point counts. Well, What happened? Let's just say Dylan Jackson happened for Masuk. Midway through the second quarter, Masuk finally off the deck. Jackson throws a touchdown pass to Jake Del Piano. They're within 28-7 at halftime, which is a little bit more manageable than 28 points. Third quarter now, and new Fairfield defense doing its best, forcing a couple of big Masuk fumbles, but Masuk's defense didn't give an inch. Right after a punt, and watch this. Jason Champagne takes a short screen from Jackson, runs into traffic, cuts back across the grain, and goes 57 yards for the score, and Masuk is within 14 points with 4:38 left in the third quarter. Plenty of time. Fourth quarter, and Jackson again finds Del Piano wide open down the right sideline for this 57-yard bomb. It is a 7-point game with 7 minutes left. New Fairfield trying to put the game away, electing to go for it on fourth down with just over a minute left, but Masuk's defense again with a huge stop with just over a minute left, giving the ball back to Jackson. Goes back the other way, and Fada nearly picks this one off and puts this one in the bed for New Fairfield, but just can't finish off the play, and Masuk, Jackson makes him pay. Hucks this great pass to Ryan Sacker to midfield. Then he looks over the middle for Del Piano, who can't get out of bounds, so Jackson moves up to spike it at the 40. Finally, Jackson finds the one guy we haven't talked about, Nick Saku, the senior who started the season at quarterback and is now given away to Jackson, comes up with a massive touchdown, leaping over two defenders, and Masuk within one measly extra point of tying New Fairfield. Well, Coach Steve Christie said he never had a doubt he was going to go for two, and why not? Masuk had all the momentum, and of course, they go to Del Piano, who runs it in for the winner. Wow. Masuk completes the 28-point comeback, and Jackson, what a night for the junior quarterback. Completed 19 of 29 passes for 385 yards and 4 touchdowns. Whew.
Everyone had a great game. The second half, everyone ate, and we just, I'm speechless. I can't even talk.
I gotta ask what it was like when you were running and that ball was in the air for that final touchdown.
No, I've dreamt about a moment like this since I was little, and the ball, I told my quarterback I was going to run post. I saw the one high safety, I thought I was going to moss him. The ball was up in the air, and I was like, there's no way anybody else is catching this but me. And I can't believe that's God right there.
It was a great team effort, Dylan over there threw some great balls to me. The line opened up a big hole for me at the end, It was a great team win.
That's twice now in the last 3 weeks that a team has rallied from 28 points down to win. We saw Morgan and Drew Nye do it 2 weeks ago against SMSA, and this week, wow,
unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, we've seen so many teams go down by that much, pack it in, go through the motions, go home.
It's one score, Pete, away from being a running clock.
Running clock
In the second half.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, just when you think
just when you think you know someone. I mean, that's amazing for Masuk, and obviously, I'm sure they weren't paying attention to other scores around the state, but if they make the playoffs, they're going to look back at that game, and I mean, that was it. I mean, that if they get in at 8-2.
Yeah, they deserve it. It's got a long road to hoe there, because you got Cheshire lurking, Hand is still lurking, Fitch is lurking, Quinnebog and Thames River not done yet, neither Cheney Tech, Weathersfield way down there, and the teams that are going to get in here are probably going to be obviously going to be St. Joe, Maloney's got a big game against Hall this week. Then you got Windsor, which I don't see them losing the rest of the way, even though they got Berlin and Newington left, and then you have Naugatuck, which showed up and beat Holy Cross, a game that I just don't get it. I saw some of the highlights of that game going on, and Chris Anderson getting all fired up for his Greyhounds in that game. But look, I thought Holy Cross was the second best team in the league at least. Now it's like I don't know who's the second best team. But that's a fascinating class, and we always say it. But the Class L is looking a little nicer now. Before it was just like, well, man, we're gonna have 3 tech teams in here, and now it's looking a little bit more competitive. But St. Joe, clearly the odds-on favorite to win that class. But speaking of the where it's at, Pete, is actually Class AA, and we had a few interesting results. First of all, Staples beating Norwalk, rallying from that game. They took it to them early, and then weathered a storm, took the lead 20-14, held off Cam Newton and the guys, but that's a big win by the Wreckers, who got smoked, if you remember, just a month and change ago to Cheshire. And now they're back.
What's the Norwalk running back's name?
Cam Edwards. Did I say Cam Newton?
Cam Newton, if you guys don't remember, Heisman Trophy winner, first
yeah.
overall pick in the NFL draft. No, that's a great win for Staples. I mean, they are back in the mix. Look, they have Ridgefield and Greenwich to finish up in 2 of their last 3 games. So, but it looks like they're in control of what, you know what I mean? Like they're in control of their own destiny. And I mean, good for Coach Adam Behrens, Ryan Thompson and the guys. And that's a huge win for them. Norwalk's got Wilton, Darien. It's got Darien, Wilton, the rest of the way. I mean, that is not easy for the Bears.
Big guy in that game was George Engels. 17 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for a loss, and a forced fumble. He was just ridiculous for the Wreckers, and that's a big win for them because we basically wrote them off. But so Staples now sitting there at number 8 in Class LL. Another big game that we saw on Friday night was West Haven, which, let's be honest with West Haven. They had a few subpar years. They dropped down to SEC Tier 2, which frankly needs to be, it's a joke. There's no 3 tiers in the SEC. This thing where we give a lot of these these big schools a pass because they haven't had a great year. I totally don't agree with it. West Haven should have a better schedule than this. But as it is now, they had their biggest win of the year against Notre Dame West Haven in a game that, Notre Dame was obviously favored to win it, but dueling turnovers early. But the second one by Notre Dame, Matt Dakota, the quarterback, the great quarterback, the guy who's going to make this team go, gets dinged up, gets carried off the field. It's the second recovery from Jermaine Galloway of West Haven, and Amir Nakome had a great game for the Westies. Scores another touchdown, and West Haven took a 21-6 halftime lead on a 19-yard run by Devin Robinson. The Green Knights tried to hang in there with Anthony Young at quarterback. His touchdown run tied the score at 6-6 early, but the Green Knights just couldn't score again, and even Coach Joe DiCaprio agreed that his team was just deflated without their leader at quarterback. And after Notre Dame turned the ball over on downs late in the fourth quarter, West Haven's Avian Evans bolts 82 yards to put West Haven up 27-6. And that might have been that, but Notre Dame scored a pair of touchdowns late with a little trickery, including a hook and lateral with about 26 seconds left. But West Haven, thank God, because I'd put my camera away, recovers the onside kick to win this one, 27-20. And they were all fine. It was like they won the Super Bowl. It was for the Soderman Trophy, which is great. They haven't really had much to celebrate West Haven over the years, but they have won this game quite a few times. But winning this was like, forget about state playoffs and all that stuff. West Haven was fired up to win this game. And then you had Joe Hawkins with a big play late to keep Notre Dame off the board. And there he is kissing the trophy. And they were taking pictures, and it was like, if West Haven gets in the playoffs or not, whatever, they beat Notre Dame. They're all fired up. And here's West Haven coach Rich Boucher on the big win. He remembers every single one of them in his 41 years.
What does it mean to get this? I know you had that the 1 year, and then you're off last year, but 4 times in the last 5 games you've played to win. What does that mean for you guys?
Personally, to these kids, it means a lot. It's a crosstown rivalry. You remember your Notre Dame games forever. This is my 41st Notre Dame West Haven game, if you include when I played. And I can tell you what happened in every single one of those 41 games, both the losses and the wins. And we're very proud of our record against them. They're a good team, a good program, and we do a good job against them.
Losing to Hamden, we realized that it was a dogfight. It came down to OT, but we had to find a way to win. We took a couple L's in the past few years to some of these teams, and we knew that coming out here, we wanted it bad. We wanted it really bad. We had a goal. Our goal was to make it to states, and that's what we're fighting for right now. It's really hard, these teams, but we're gonna do it. We got this.
It was unfortunate we lost our quarterback in the second series of the game. It changed the whole, complex of our offense. Our whole entire offense, changes with Anthony Young youngin'. We're more of a sprint team. I thought he played super well. I thought our offensive line played really well. We had to change all of our calls when Matt Picota went out of the game. Defense, we missed a few tackles. We knew exactly what we're going to do, and we didn't line up correctly. And I give my hats off to them. They took it to us a little bit. But we fought back. Our team will never quit. And, I'm upset for our guys that we didn't get to play with our full squad.
So West Haven kind of gets back in here a little bit. And then you saw another big game on Friday night with Shelton hanging on to beat Newtown in a kind of a chippy game there, huh, Pete?
Yeah, it was. I think tempers were high in that game. There was a lot to play for. I mean, Newtown was playing for their playoff lives. Now they're with 3 losses. They are going to be hoping that a lot of teams lose in front of them.
Yeah.
And for Shelton, to improve to 7-1, we talk about it on the Pick'em pod, but the Shelton Revenge Tour is in full motion. The gals sit at 7-1, currently in a playoff spot in the top 10 of the poll. They're good. We talk about Santiago, we talk about, Tyler Rich and, the big guys, Weiner and Lockavitch on defense, but Rosa, the kicker, he is awesome. I mean, he is a kid. They went up 6-0. Having those extra points, they couldn't get in the end zone. They were still able to come away with points is such a weapon. He had 3 field goals in the first half, including a 43-yarder with no time left in the half into the wind. I mean, to be able to send a guy out there in a close game and give you those points. I mean, they won by 3. I mean, that comes down to the kicking game. If they would have left those first 2 drives without any points, they would have lost by 3. Or it would have been tied. Like, having a guy like that makes them so dangerous if they can get there. And their passing game looked a lot better than it has earlier, and the defense is so good. I mean, Lockavitch, he comes up here with the fumble recovery at the end. I mean, Newtown went and scored immediately after. To make it a 3-point game. But, I mean, it was such a big momentum part of that game. But, there was some chaos in the game at one point. It looked like Shelton was going to go in for a touchdown. From my angle, it looked like he crossed. He, reached the ball out. And the ball goes into the end zone. A Newtown player picks it up. And if you watch the video, he just kind of, walks out of the back of the end zone, which should be a touchback. And then the refs come together and they rule it a safety.
Wow.
It was just chaos. It was in my head, knowing football, right? The rules of football. I was that was either a touchdown or a touchback. In no way should it have been a safety. The refs conferred, said it was a safety. Then they conferred again, ruled it a touchback. 2 plays later, Newtown's in the end zone. 3 plays later, Newtown's in the end zone. And you're uh-oh. Here we go. Everyone's kind of on edge and everything like that. But Shelton rallied. I mean, they could have put their heads down and been this isn't fair, blah, blah, blah. But they rallied, they came back, and they won. And now you're they're going into a great game next week against Fairfield Prep in what I call the de facto SEC championship game.
Yeah. Get your tickets now. Pack that place. Shelton, you brought up a good point about Shelton. Shelton a couple of years ago might have been whining and crying about that. Maybe now this is you know what? Put it behind you. Good for them coming back on that one. And now
and Mike DeFelice, Coach DeFelice, friend of the program. He tweaked his calf on one play on the sideline. He was pretty animated. Hurt his calf. So he was, he made sure to point that out immediately before I started interviewing him. He's I'm just letting you know, this isn't like when Coach Roy blew out his knee.
Which was
he's I just, I tweaked
and I think that was against Fairfield Prep. Now, if I remember correct, I'm just thinking off the top of my head. It might have been against Fairfield Prep in 2007.
Mike was waddling around. He looked like he was walking like a penguin. I'm what is going on? So Bill Blocks, our coworker, is Coach, are you okay? He's actually, I think I pulled my calf on the sideline. So, I mean, Shelton looks good. That was the first time I saw them this year. I'm very excited for that game against Prep this Friday.
Yeah, that would be great. It's going to be our game of the week, the GameTimeCT game of the week. And, both Fairfield Prep and Shelton are in good spots here in Class LL. Both with 1 loss. Fairfield Prep 6-1. Shelton is now 7-1 because we learned over the weekend that Derby is going to forfeit the remaining 5 games on his schedule, which is, this season aside, Shelton was going to win that game anyway. But the fact that Derby is packing it in for the season, I think for the first time ever, packing in the season. They've been playing since, the First World War. They've been playing for 100 years and change. And they've been playing that Shelton rivalry game for 100 something. No one quite knows, because back then you didn't know what was a varsity team. What was it? They had the junior team, they had the senior team. It's chaos. They've played anywhere between 110 times and 120 times. Shelton seems to think it's 120, which maybe they're being a little generous. But the point is that we're probably going to lose this rivalry for good. I think it's over. The fact that it needed to get to this point where it took Derby needing to close down the season because of safety. This rivalry is not a rivalry anymore. Derby's a change town. Shelton's a change town. Things are different. I think it's just not, unless Derby wants to co-op with a bunch of teams. Even then, I don't think it's a good spot for them to be playing Shelton anymore. And that's a shame, but kind of speaks to where we are right now.
It's really disappointing. Anytime you see something like that happen, and Derby is such a story program. I don't remember any of it because it was way before my time. But hearing you, Sean Parker, Joe Morelli kind of talk about those great Derby teams and all that success, and they have a new $20 million, $30 million facility that unfortunately is going to go unused.
Well, at least for the rest of this.
That kind of stinks. Yeah, at least for the rest of the season. But you look at the double L points now, and I didn't even notice this. Shelton is 7-1 now because Derby has officially forfeited all the games. The points are calculated for those games already. Shelton at 7-1 is sitting behind Fairfield, Prep, and Canaan, who are 6-1.
Yeah.
So that game wasn't really going to help them anyway, which is a shame. And maybe going forward now, Shelton will get a new Thanksgiving rivalry.
Yeah.
I don't know who it would be. I don't know what it would be.
I know Xavier's got. They're not. They just picked up Glastonbury. I wouldn't have a problem with them. Here's what I would do, Pete. I would do Shelton versus West Haven and Prep versus Xavier. What do you think?
Yeah,
changing those up. I mean, because West Haven Prep is never. It's always been a marriage of convenience. You don't like that?
Yeah. No, I'm saying I don't like Prep West Haven.
Yeah,
I like that better. I like Prep Xavier. The holy war on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And then I went to Catholic high school. I can say that. And, and then you get Shelton, West Haven, who were two good SEC programs, fighting it out on Thanksgiving, whether it's at Finn Stadium or Ken Strong. I mean, that's great. I mean, I understand the Green Bowl has all that history. I love the intertown rivalries, like West Haven, Notre Dame, West Haven on Thanksgiving would be really cool.
Yeah.
If the McDonough twins listen to this, I think they'll kill me if I even bring up getting rid of the Green Bowl. Not that that's not what I'm saying, but I just like those inner close rivalries, like Wilton Ridgefield was this week. Like no love lost between those towns. Yeah. When you drive past, when you leave Wilton High School towards the highway, the first right you make is this big sign that says Ridgefield, right? Like they're right there. I love that. That said, Shelton obviously needs to do something. And I think what you're proposing is a really good idea. Let's do that. Let's get Shelton official meat grinder statement. We, the Meat Grinder podcast, officially support moving Shelton to play West Haven on Thanksgiving and Fairfield Prep to play Xavier starting next season. End statement, Pete Pagwaga, Sean Patrick Bowley. Right. There it is. It's official.
Shelton has been burned by having Derby out of the SEC. Remember, they were a Housatonic League rival for many years. Won state championships as early as 1990. Was always competitive. My first game I ever covered for the Register back in 1999 was Dan Orlovsky as a junior. And Kofi Wilson beating up on Derby, but Derby was always right in there, man. It wasn't the Thanksgiving; it was the night after Thanksgiving because they got rained that night in '99. So best wishes to Steve Banner and everyone at Derby. We help you guys come back. They're going to try and do a kind of a scrimmage schedule, and their full intention is to come back as a varsity program. We certainly hope that happens. So getting back quickly to the Class Double L standings and what happened in the FCAC last week. We have obviously Shelton versus Fairfield Prep coming up this week. All right, so that's a big game. New Canaan got off the deck beating up on a Greenwich team, which had started to roll. The old Greenwich got beat up by Shelton, started to come back, beat Fairfield Prep 14-7. They were rolling. They beat up on Trumbull. That was a huge win. You're thinking, all right, this is the Greenwich team we know about. Well, New Canaan, everyone basically wrote off after they almost lost to Norwalk, and then they lost to Wilton 20-14 the week before. Basically, everyone's like, New Canaan's not good. Well, they figured out what their strength was, and they took a page from the Shelton book, decided to hit the ground running, literally 62 running attempts and 308 yards. They just ran Greenwich over. Even the defense played great. They had Chad Russo was just all over the field. He had a few sacks and he was just a monster for them. And the only thing Greenwich should get is a punt return touchdown by your guy, Galata.
He's unbelievable. I know they lost. I can't stress how good of a player he is and how he doesn't get talked about enough. He is so damn good. And he had the punt return against St. Joe's as well. I would put the ball in his hands 100 times.
Yeah. Well,
but that's me.
They couldn't score on offense. They could not score on offense against New Canaan. New Canaan, 62 carries, which is, the exact opposite of every Lou Marinelli team since the spread offense became a thing. Remember, this is a team that had Michael Collins throwing like 9 touchdown passes in a game not too long ago. And but when they need to do it, Lou is more than happy, apparently, to go back, as Scott Erickson said, go back to 1994 and run, baby. And they ran over Greenwich and ran Greenwich out of their own building in a pretty big win. They got Ludlow left. They got Ward left. That really put New Canaan in a good spot to qualify, even if they did lose to Darien on Thanksgiving. So a big win for them. I was shocked. I picked Greenwich. I thought Greenwich was rolling us. I did not have any faith in New Canaan. And sure enough, there they are. Cagnetta, Russo, the guys. Great. That was a great win. And there we are with Class Double L, Pete. It's just.
Look, it's going to be interesting because New Canaan, first of all, hasn't lost like back-to-back games. I went all the way back to like 2004. I couldn't find the last time they lost back-to-back regular season games. And, that Darien game is always such a toss-up. I mean, you look the last 4 years, New Canaan had Drew Pine, right? He started on Thanksgiving. Darien had to be the favorite in 3 of the 4 or all of them?
Pretty much.
They wwere the favorite 19.
They were winning state championship. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that game is always such a toss-up. So if Darien goes in 9-0, New Canaan goes in 8-1, we could see a flip in the standings.
Yeah.
If New Canaan can pull it off and go 9-1. Again, I think I picked New Canaan last year because I drew Pine. Was really the only reason why I picked him. He was 2-1 against him, lost to him his freshman year. So Darien, I don't think Darien's won the Thanksgiving game against New Canaan in 3 years.
As you are saying, Pete, Darien, New Canaan, very much a toss-up. I mean, you could even see New Canaan maybe win that game, if all breaks right. I don't know.
Do we have? Look, Hall's got Maloney. Let's say Hall loses to Maloney, goes 7-1. Darien goes 9-1. New Canaan goes 9-1. Shelton or Prep goes 9-1. I don't know how to do the math, but who is number one? That's going to be, the fight for the number one spot. Obviously, is going to come down to Thanksgiving, but there's a lot. You're looking at West Haven, and you're like, well, if they win all 3 games, the rest of their 4 games, that includes a win over Fairfield Prep. Whew.
Yeah.
I don't want to dive too far ahead.
I tried to dive into this, Pete, and with the new point system adding the strength of schedule points, I don't know quite where to start. I think this week is where the week where people who are better at this math than I am you're going to start seeing some qualifiers, at least from the undefeated teams, like Darien, which came up with a huge win over St. Joseph this week. Number 1 versus number 2 is the game of the week. We thought we were going to see a classic showdown, and it was all Darien. St. Joseph, maybe a little bit banged up as we all feared, but Maxwell Warren played, and he was all fired up to get out there. But great catches by Matt Minikis. He also had Brandon Hutchinson with a nice catch with 7-7 early, but then the turnovers started piling up, and you had pressure from Ivanchek and the defensive line and the linebackers and the defense showing up. And, Darien takes the 2-touchdown lead late in the first half. They go up 21-7. And after kind of a meh third quarter, we're still kind of feeling each other out. St. Joseph finally gets within one again on a fourth and just prayer pass from Morrissey to Hutchinson, who played great. And it was 21-14 early in the fourth quarter. Anything can happen. Well, Miles Drake, who was brilliant, by the way, hits Jeremiah Stafford for a 70-yard touchdown just 2 plays or so later. And just like that, wide open. And just like that, Darien up 2 scores again. And that was it. St. Joseph just didn't have the horse to get back into it. You had Minikis wide open, a 29-yard pass from Drake, and then they went to their boy, our boy, Ty Comiskey, to put the game away. 42-14. I didn't think that was going to be it. I don't think anyone, even Darien, didn't think it was going to be that much. But they know now, and they wanted to send a message to everybody, especially the state coaches who are all voting St. Joseph, who their number 1 team in the state is.
If there was any debate on who was number 1, who's number 2, I guess you feel like you answered it today?
Yeah, I guess. Well, thank you to, the guys who write, because you guys were calling us number 1, and the coaches out there, hats off to you.
We got names and numbers now on it, so we'll watch them.
Nice game.
Thank you.
So you think you convinced the coaches?
I hope so. I mean, if that doesn't do it, then I don't know what will.
They're good. They're number 1 for a reason. We pulled back to 21-14, and we felt good about that right there. And then this kid's running down the field by himself, and it's like, what the heck happened? And you can't have that stuff in a big game, and then turn around, happens again. Then all of a sudden, game's over.
Joe Delvecchio was a little despondent afterwards, and actually apologized for not showing up. I was like, we walked away. He goes, sorry, couldn't give you a better game, but they got burned by the 3 touchdowns just wide open, especially the last 2 right after they got within 21-14. And Joe, I feel it was good up until that point. What are you gonna do? Sometimes just games like this get away from you.
I was not surprised that Darien won. I was surprised by how big they won. And I think that's a credit to Darien. Look, they were the preseason number 1. I think we all had an idea of how good they were. But Miles Drake, man. Whew.
Yeah.
11 touchdowns in the last two games. He could play. For Darien, it's the first time they really have that difference maker at quarterback since, I think maybe Timmy Graham, a guy who can throw them back in a game, a guy who puts up numbers. And, seeing Darien the last couple of years, anytime they were down, it was very hard to see them either put teams away if they couldn't do it on the ground or throw themselves back into games. And Miles Drake's good. In a year where we're looking around the state for a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's the best quarterback in the state? Some homework from, if you guys want to tweet at us or something, we're looking. He's up there.
Yeah, I haven't seen Darien yet. I need to make that a point of mine to go see Darien soon. But I've seen some really good quarterback performances this year, but not consistent play. And I think I need to go see Darien. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. I need to see Darien. I need to see Miles Drake play. And that's not even bringing up, Ty Comiskey, who's just a monster.
This isn't 2017 or whatever it was, or 18. Yeah, 2018 when we had Will Levis and David Summers. Will Levis, we made second team, and he wasn't happy about it. But now he's just crushing it up to the college level. And so what are you gonna do? It's an imprecise science, but we're talking about high school here. And right now, looking around the state, I don't see anybody who jumps off the page. Other than Miles Drake, or might be 1 or 2 other guys there.
Yeah, but even the last couple of years, we had these guys. We had these quarterbacks who were going to play at the next level at a high level. You said Levis, Summers. We had Pine. Mm-hmm. We had, Phoenix Billings was really good, putting up really great numbers at hand. We had these quarterbacks where you were like, oh, these guys, Gavin Muir. How do we completely forget our boy Gavin Muir?
Oh yeah.
There were just such great quarterbacks, and this year we're kind of looking around like, who's the guy who's going to step up? Who's the guy who's going to put himself in that race for the quarterback on the All-State team for us? And yeah, I don't. Miles Drake is doing a really good job. That's all I'll say.
As expected, Darien is the consensus, unanimous number one team in the state. All 22 votes. First place votes. They are 7-0, and St. Joseph doesn't drop far, as they shouldn't have. They should be the number 2 team in the state. They've beaten basically everyone else except the number 1 team. I think that's a fair statement right now.
I'm surprised they're still there.
Yeah, you're usually the one who's like, how do you drop them? And they did good here, the voters.
They did good this week. New Canaan loses to Wilton. We drop them all the way from 3 to 7?
Mm-hmm.
St. Joe's loses to Darien. It's like, you know what? Good job, guys. You can say, Newtown played better against Darien and fell right down the pole when they lost to Darien. But it was good that St. Joe's is at number 2. That's where they should be. Yeah. They are the favorites to win Class L and win their 4th straight state title. Unless something happens, if Darien loses early in the playoffs, I think that's the only way that St. Joe's could be number 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, if Darien loses, I think St. Joe's have a good shot if they run out. Anyway, number 3, New Canaan, as you mentioned. Number 4, Hall, which just continues to win. Glastonbury didn't put up too much of a fight as Hall used to, but Matt Farber and Eli Solomons and Leo Pereira. It's just they have a big game coming up this week, Pete. And I guess a team that's not even in the rankings if you look at it. You're not even in there. Maloney with a big win a couple weeks ago against Xavier, and they're rolling now.
Yeah, Maloney is rolling. 84 points in the last 2 games. Their defense has allowed 20 points or more once this year. Hall has allowed 190 points. I know they're 7-0, and I know they're the number 4 team in the state, despite what I think. But what I will be interested to see, because I'm confident that Maloney wins this game. I said it on the pick'em spot. I'll say it on this one. I'm confident that Maloney wins this game. How far does Maloney jump up in the poll if they win this game?
Well, they should jump in.
No. But I think if Maloney beats Hall, they will be in the top 10. But how far up do they go beating the number 4 team in the state?
I think Hall's a little high here. Let's be honest.
Hall has been high all year.
Okay. I think Maloney gets in there at least number 7. At least.
I think.
Because Prep Shelton loser's gonna drop, right? Mm-hmm. But are they higher than that? Maybe they are up.
Where does Southington go?
Well, yeah.
Southington beat Maloney, but lost to Hall.
Oh, man. Anyway, I can't even think about it, Pete. Anyway, Fairfield Prep is number 5. Shelton is number 6. They're playing this week. Big one. Wilton squeaks. I can't remember the last time Wilton's number was ranked. There might have been one time, but I can't remember. Maybe a preseason poll. I doubt it. Anyway, Greenwich still won't go away. Greenwich 3 losses, still in the top 10, but you know what? That's fine for me, at least, because one of them is New Canaan. They also lost to Shelton, which is in there. They beat Fairfield Prep. And then, they beat Ridgefield, which is now falling out a bit here, but, and then obviously St. Joseph, and they lost to them too, the number 2 team, and I have no problem with that. And then Southington, all right, number 9, and then Killingly in there at number 10, whatever. And then Ridgefield just falling out. Norwalk is falling out. The FCX not as dominant here, but let's be honest, the FCX is where it's at this year.
We all knew this was going to happen. They all have to play each other.
Yeah. Don't tell Al Carbone because he gets really upset when you talk about the FCX too much. He was chirping at us. Your favorite league, and hey, man, get 5 ranked teams.
We don't get any retweets on our SEC stories anyway.
Yeah, that's all right. I went to see West Haven and Notre Dame, and I got maybe I won't go to SEC teams anymore. I don't know, man. I don't have to tell you. But all right, here to talk about St. Joseph and Darien is our columnist Jeff Jacobs joining us right now. What did you get out of St. Joe Darien?
Well, I was surprised by the final score. They whooped them on offense. They whooped them on defense. They game planned a weakness on when they spotted the safety biting down too hard hit 3 long, wide open passes and a 4th one that was essentially wide open. And they dismantled them. They left no doubt who should be number 1 right now. And in the process, I'm thrilled because it makes that Class L race and into the playoffs number 1 overall still in play, because I know Wilton's in L, but I was afraid that if St. Joe's won Saturday, they'd waltz to number 1 and all the argument would be left for who's number 2. So everything's in play now, so I love it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. You made that point, and I kind of threw it in there in the column I wrote for Sunday for Monday. But basically, that now the focus goes on the double L, which is kind of a mess. Lots of great teams are all kind of beating each other up. We got Fairfield Prep, Shelton this week coming up, and I think Darien winning that game and kind of putting the onus on Class Double L to prove that they have the number 1 team in the state. Otherwise, I think if Darien loses, I think St. Joe can, by winning a state championship, can get back into the picture. Maybe if they go undefeated, but I mean, because if they go undefeated, I don't think anyone's going to go number 1 somebody else, like a 1-loss double L team, unless it's Hall.
I will say this, David Ivanchik is very much real and very much one of the top players in the state. Should be in any discussion for MVPs of the year. The quarterback wide receiver combination of Mr. Drake and Mr. Minikis is they've been together since the 6th grade, is proving devastating. They got 8 TD hookups in the last 2 games and are really. It was funny listening to them saying that Ivanchik talked about how the year off and the private league kind of kept Minikis a secret, which there's so many Minikis bloodlines in Darien. It's hard to keep any Minikis a secret. But
I was like, wait a minute. I think we all know about the Minikises. Even if you hear about one Minikis, you heard them all. Like, and there's no shock to me that he was good. I mean, I don't know about the rest of the FCI. Maybe they were sleeping, but certainly I wasn't. I don't know about you, but
yeah. And Ty Comiskey continues to be a truck as a running back. The defensive line kept Morrissey on the run all day, made him uncomfortable, and threw 3 picks. So St. Joe's is like, they're better than they played Saturday. But for now, they got whooped big time.
Well, here's the major question. Here's the question, Jeff. Who'd you vote number 2 this week?
I voted Hall.
Oh.
And I don't think they're the number 2 team in the state, but I'm voting them. I did exactly what I promised I wouldn't do when I came in this fall was vote, like just because they're undefeated, that I move any team, not just particularly any team, all the way up. But I did it anyway. I just got fed up with keep on voting Greenwich so high. My joke about myself is they lose any more games, I'm going to have them number 1. So I slid everybody down and put Hall down there. And I moved Wilton up to number 7.
Wow. Okay. Well,
that's sort of where.
At this point, I looked at my ballot and I was like, Darien, and then I kind of was just like, it's just kind of a mess.
Yeah, it's just I characterize it as the traffic on I-95 at 6 o'clock on a Friday. The FCAC, except for Darien, they're getting the police escort in the breakdown lane. But so you could make arguments all the way around. Norwalk's it's got to drop down now. Shelton's got to move up. They're not in the FCAC, but Fairfield Prep is moving up. So I don't know. I like Darien. I've liked them all along, and maybe those coaches will finally start listening to us, right?
Great points about that. Just to switch gears a little bit, you wrote a column that kind of got buried under the Friday glare a bit, but something that no less important that we really should be talking about here. We're going to go on the opposite end of the spectrum. You talk about all the city schools this year and how they're just not. I mean, the pandemic really seems to have really hit them hard, and they were already struggling, and it really has not been a great year for some of the city schools all over the state. You name it. But what did you come up with that, Jeff? And what do you think the solutions are?
Yeah, I talked to coaches from Hartford, Bridgeport, New Haven. I wanted to go to the heart of of the matter, and the guys Harry Bellucci and Coach Santiago and Coach Aquavita in New Haven. At Wilbercross, they were really good. You hit one thing right on the head. The pandemic made it much worse for them. It's a matter of consistency with those kids, keeping them involved. So many of them are working now more than they had. So many of them are going home to watch their younger siblings as their moms are watching, are working double shifts. So not having them involved for a year, it really hurt them. But there's just a lot of problems. And talking to Coach Santiago in Bridgeport, I mean, he talked about just feeding the kids, making sure they had enough to eat at a practice, and I mean, there's myriad troubles, and I think one of the conclusions I came away from, like at Hartford, their midget programs and youth programs are kind of in shambles. The other two places are better. New Haven's always had good Pop Warner, thanks to Reggie at Littell and in New Haven, and Bridgeport. Santiago talked about how prep coaches come and move in, take the top players away from them, and that's a problem. But I just think co-opting those. I know and you bring in Derby just folded their season, and it's a hard pill for the traditional schools to swallow. But co-ops is just something of the future. It already is of the present, and it's going to be more and more.
I think that's a great idea. I would actually like to see it. A lot of people have said, imagine if you got all the best players and in each of these districts to each of these cities to stay home and play there. I mean, obviously they're going out. I mean, I've had great players from some of the cities. There's no way I'm staying. Why would I stay if I'm going to get an education at Avon Old Farms or something like that? Right. But but for the kids that don't have that option, or maybe not be at that level, for them to all play and to excel, I think that's a great option. I mean, I don't know there's just too many of them. It's like what Harry was saying. There's just too many schools, and it's almost like pointless to have a team in that regard. Like, what do the talent is so diluted, and you're already up against it and other things. So what is the point? And I think the CIC should really look at that. I don't know what you think. I mean, obviously.
I agree 100%. The just going strictly enrollment isn't the idea. Besides, these magnet schools and these tech schools have large enrollments. I think the casual observer doesn't, just thinks of the traditional schools and thinks they're huge, but they are not. And you hear stories of like not being able to get an entire team to starters for practice at a game. And at Harding, one of the kids missed the game because his brother got shot, one of the starters. I mean, there's a lot of stories, and they're real. And so I don't see, you could congregate some of those city schools. I think there's pride in that. That's not like putting them, one city school with somebody that's 50 miles away or something. You can get them closer there. But there's all sorts of areas in the state they're just screaming for more co-ops, because otherwise you're just going to see more and more schools. It's bad. I mean, people got to look at it. There's like 15, 16 schools in the top 8 cities, and only Norwalk at 5-2 has a winning record right now. You're looking at all sorts of 0-7s and 1-6s, and sometimes the only win they have is against each other. It's when Bassick beat Bridgeport Central, and then Bassick went out and got crushed by a 1-win Class S Griswold team that had lost like 110-8 to some fellow Class S teams out here in the ECC. I mean, that just shows you kind of disparity.
Yeah, it speaks to the disparity. I mean, I know there are going to be some people who are like, well, this school still a school. Why can't we have our own team? And this school, the Bridgeport Central, why can't we? It's a big school. Why can't they play? And I just think the intangibles around. I mean, I would hate to see Hill House not have, be Hill House, Wilbur Cross, But then you also have like other schools like Career or they don't have a team, and they have all. I don't know. It's just I think the ones that can prove that they're viable should stay viable, but the ones that just can't over time, maybe you should really consider maybe, and the CIC should be at the forefront of this, because they're screaming about making everybody equal. Trying to get an equal opportunity, which you're never going to fix. They're never going to fix that. They think they can. They're not going to fix it. These other schools, they're all going out to their camps. They're going to send their kids away. They're going to go out to these places. The city schools are not going to have. You're not going to bridge that gap. CIC. They think they can, but I don't know.
Look, in Hartford, there's so many schools right now. They've taken themselves out of basketball powers, which I thought would be impossible. There's so many teams, basketball teams now. They're not in the hunt for state championships, and there's all sorts of great players in Hartford in basketball. There's various problems that nothing's going to solve it at this point beyond, I think, co-ops.
Yeah. Well, it's a very interesting topic, and we'll obviously have a lot to talk about that in future weeks and things like that. But obviously, that's a problem we gotta figure out, because it's, you can't have their kids getting their heads kicked in every week. But Jeff, thanks for joining us. We appreciate we appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you next week, and we'll see you on the Picks podcast.
I only got one thing I got left to say. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Joining us now is the fourth-year head coach, third season head coach, EJ DiNunzio, joining us here from Wilton. Coach, how you doing? Congratulations. The Wicked Witch is dead, Coach. Right after Halloween. It's perfect time. Congratulations. Hell of a job.
Thanks so much. It's been a great 2 weeks. It's been a great ride. It's been a lot of fun.
Did you have any inclination that this might be a team that we know you guys, Wilton's always had great athletes over the years. I mean, but the football team just never could pull it together. Did you have any inkling that maybe this team could do it, even if you lost your first, a couple games of the season?
Well, to show you what a genius I am, I said last year's team was my best team, I thought. And this year's team, once I saw the schedule, I'm saying 5-5, might be a pretty good job. Little did I know, with the schedule we had from North Haven to Notre Dame, West Haven, Darien, New Canaan, Ridgefield, the list goes on and on. I had no idea how good, as you said, we have athletes. Have athletes on offense, have athletes on defense. It was just going to be how good were they going to play? How were they going to gel? How were they going to bond as a team? And they have surpassed my wildest expectations. They've done a great job.
You're sitting there with versus Notre Dame, West Haven on the road, and I guess there was a comeback, and they're going to go. They go for two. They get it. They kind of like it. And it must have been like, oh God, here we go again. What do we got to do here, Wilton?
Yeah. Listen, in Notre Dame, West Haven, I still kick myself for that one. Again, too many penalties. I had to listen to Pete on the last grinder, basically go through all our penalties, and he's 100% right. Shot ourselves in the foot at West Haven. We have a touchdown call back. We jump on a punt for no reason and lose possession at our own 20. Should have won the game. And listen, every coach going to should have, could have, would have, but should have won that game. I was really most impressed with the North Haven game. I hate their offense, pain in the neck. Yeah, and I didn't know how we would play against them. And so having a good win off of the North Haven game, and then going up against Notre Dame, West Haven, who their quarterback is phenomenal. Their running back is great. They got a great team. So the loss wasn't that demoralizing to me at all, but I thought it was something we could build on. And that's what we've tried to do.
Take us through, what did you see I guess your next game was the Darien game, which was the one that kind of popped. Everyone's eyes kind of popped out. Seeing that score, what did you see there? I mean, St. Joe couldn't score that many on them, and you guys are 30. I'm sitting there at a brewery somewhere, and where was I? I was in I was in North Branford somewhere, and I'm looking at the score. I'm like, is this right? Is this right? And it's like, here it is again, 36. Now it's 36. I'm like, oh my goodness. And then obviously they pulled away, but what did you guys see there, and what were you able to do to kind of put a fright into Darien?
I said it back when we were playing 7-on-7 and last year. I knew we could score points this year. There was no doubt in my mind. Again, you talk about athletes. We have guys that can get our dudes the ball, and we have the dudes that can run once they get the ball. So I thought we would put up points against Darien. Listen, they're a great football team. They're a great program. That's what we strive to become. But I did see some areas. My offensive coordinator, I thought Coach Hurlin did a great job in preparation. We thought we could hit certain spots here and there, which we did. And unfortunately, the one thing I'm lacking this year is depth. I've never played this few amount of guys since I've been here. So that really took a toll. And I got to tell you, in the fourth quarter, it's 36-35, and all of a sudden, my linebacker, Jake Sommer, goes to make a tackle, and I see him grab his side there, and I said, okay, I'm in trouble now. And it was all downhill after that. But listen, for 3 quarters, we were in the game. They pulled away late. Certainly a gutsy effort from our guys. But again, I told them after the game, listen, we have to work next week. We have to get better again. We're getting there. We're almost there. But you know what it is? In all honesty, you got to learn how to win those games. We have not learned how to win big games up until this year. Being close is no longer good enough. So 2 wins that were not expected by me at all in the beginning of the year. But we're starting to learn how to achieve that goal, how to win those games.
Yeah.
Well, when did that change in this program? Because this is a program that's always been kind of there, championships in 78 and 85. And it's been a long time since then. It was funny when you and I spoke after the New Canaan game. You're like, is this the first time we're meeting in person? I'm like, no, coach. I was at the Ridgefield game the season before. And you're like, oh, that one doesn't count. Right. Because you guys were leading that game. It was close that game. Ridgefield came back and won it those years ago. But when did it change to like, all right, being close isn't good enough? Because you guys made the playoffs in 2019, kind of a surprise.
They backed
everybody kind of rallied behind. We're like, oh my God, Wilton's in the playoffs. Let's go.
Yeah, it was the first time since like Tom Fujitani was there, right? It was like 98 or something crazy, or 7 or 5. Actually, it was 95. You guys went to the state finals. And it was kind of like one of those things where like, wow, somebody had to lose and you had to get in. It was one of those deals. But now it's like you're in the driver's seat. But go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, it's a great question, Pete. When I first got the job, I reached out to a buddy of mine in Westchester who's won about 10 state championships. And I said, listen, I'm coming into a program. It's been in great hands. Cunningham, Egan, Fujitani. These are great guys, great football minds. I said, what do I need to get to the next level? I wasn't going to be satisfied being 5-5, 6-4, maybe 7-3. He gave me some great ideas. I think it started for us, in the weight room. Wilton's youth program has always been good, and we're always banging up with New Canaan and Ridgefield and Darien. And a lot of the youth guys are like, hey, we won a championship 3 years in a row, and then we get up to the varsity level. Can't beat them. So my first focus was getting guys into the weight room, getting bigger and stronger every day. And we accomplished that. My first year was maybe 9 to 12 kids in that weight room. My second year, we had about 20 to 25. And then, we're right around 30, 35 kids, which is great. So it's there. It's also, listen, it's mentality. I told these kids, listen, you got to believe. You got to go home at night before the game and picture yourself winning a big game. Picture yourself running for 80 yards for a winning score. And I told them special people make special plays. That was our mantra. And if you saw the New Canaan game, I got Jimmy Luce, who's I got to be honest, he's one of the soundest, most technical linemen you find, my left tackle. His dad was a tackle. He's going to play at college next year. And I had to throw him in on defense because I lacked the depth. And he's in it for 3 plays, and they run a screen. And he's smart enough to feel the screen. He starts to drop back. He throws his hand up, and he all gets deflected. My nose guard, Jackson Duncan, who plays very infrequently, goes and makes this diving catch that, he looked like a wide receiver. He looked like Parker on a play. So it's that kind of belief. It's that kind of belief in themselves, in their brothers, in their coaching staff. I'm a firm believer in mentality. You believe you can do something, you can do it. And I think that's where we're getting to. It's paying off. It's great.
Yeah, you guys, a lot of different guys are stepping up. Obviously, you mentioned Lucy and Duncan makes the play in the New Canaan game. Obviously, Michael Cooper comes through, kicks his first 2 field goals of his high school career in his first year playing football at Dunning in New Canaan, which was hard to play. And whatever, he just drills it to win it. Gets iced 2 times by one of the greatest coaches in Connecticut history, and he's just not even phased. Masterson steps up, Woodring steps up, Sommer steps up. I mean, there are so many guys, Heisey, whatever how you pronounce it. There's like 1,000 of them. You get all these different guys are stepping up. What's the chemistry? What's the attitude on this team? Like, do they actually like each other? Because it seems like they do.
Yeah, you know what it is, Pete? It's a group of guys that are very even keeled. when they lost that Notre Dame West Haven game, we actually I got a phone call from a parent from Notre Dame West Haven who said, Coach, I just want to let you know that the way your kids handled that loss, they had just had 2 tough losses in a row, Branford and the other one, and their kids were distraught. He said the way your kids acted after that game was great, and he was right. I hate to say we don't get too high. We were pretty high after Ridgefield in the game. Off the loss, we were pretty even keeled. We knew that, we had a good football team at that point, and we just needed to execute. Kids love one another. The senior class is very tight. The sophomores, I have a sophomore playing defensive end, a junior playing defensive end. The sophomore, Theorides, didn't play football since youth football in 8th grade. Recovered a punt before, and now he's a varsity football player. So it's good chemistry. It's a great bunch of kids. Sometimes I always tell people, I'd rather be 0-10 with a great bunch of kids than be 10-0 with a bunch of guys you don't love and like. These guys are extremely lovable, and they love one another. So it shows.
Well, I haven't seen you yet, Coach. So, you got to give Pete Senior. He knows all about that. But, and he comes back and he's last week on the podcast. He's like, Parker Woodring is legit. Like, I heard a lot about him. And, usually when I hear some guy's legit, I'm like, we'll see. But so far, man, it sounds like he's great. And then obviously someone had to remind me that Grant Masterson was the one who scored the winning goal in the lacrosse final. Sorry, the lacrosse FCAC playoffs. And so, these are 2 guys, and I hear that they're just really kind of on another level together right now.
They are, and they're great friends. They got a great chemistry going. What I'll say about Parker was he played some 7-on-7 in the summer against some really some top-notch athletes and got some really good recognition. But his first 3 games didn't really stand out. Had a decent game here and there. So going into the Darien game, kind of my turn to ruffle his feathers a little bit. And I got in his face and I said, listen, you want to show the state of Connecticut how good of a football player you are. You're going to guard Dominica's kid all over the field. All right. That's your job. And I'll tell you, for 3 quarters, we all know how good Dominica's kid is as a receiver.
Oh, yeah.
He bottled him up. He got beat on the one play where he slipped in the 4th quarter.
Right. Basically,
ever since that
right,
game, ever since that game, he has stepped it up. He makes catches that, the pick he had on the sideline there was just as good as the diving catch he made receiving it. So
I was going to say, I think the diving catch on the drive where Grant scored to give you guys the lead, like that was I don't want to say an NFL type catch, but the way he turned his body, dove back, and then the pick was amazing, and you don't expect that ball to be picked off.
And Pete, you said it. Listen, it wasn't just a catch; it was the turn at the end of the catch, so that it wouldn't hit the ground or bobble. And listen, let's go back to Masterson. Masterson has a cut on his hand, probably needed stitches, bleeding all over the place. Has to come out for a play.
Oh snap!
My backup quarterback runs in the game. Great kid, Andrew Costarello. He's going to be a good quarterback next year for us. He bobbles a snap, and I look over at our trainers who have done a monumental job this year keeping our guys healthy. And I go, guys, he needs to get back in there. And they taped him up, and he goes, kid, you talk about warrior. Grant Masterson is the definition of a warrior, no doubt.
Yeah, he's going Army.
Can sling it.
So,
Oh,
play,
he can run it too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, people are laughing. People don't know he's going to lacrosse. He's playing Army. And I remember all the Army guys were all over that play on Twitter when he scored the lacrosse play. But yeah, obviously he's got to be a special kid to go there, and certainly one of that guys. And what about Parker? What's his situation?
Parker committed to Cornell.
Oh,
and as I said, he had a lot of people knocking on his door. His dad was a heck of a player. I believe he also went to Cornell. Jeff. I knew the kid had all the tools. It was just a matter of time. And it's funny. Here's a kid who played soccer in 9th grade. And I was begging this kid to come out for me. Like, listen, right? So I have to go through the hallways. I hand out my card. I'm trying to recruit wherever I can. And I see this kid. He's a specimen. I'm like, dude, you play. I'm nothing against soccer, but, have you ever played football? He goes, oh, I played it in youth. And I said, come on.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'll see. And about a month or 2 later, I get a phone call from his dad. I just want to let you know my son's hanging up his soccer cleats to play football. Well,
Attaboy.
That made my day, you know. There you go.
Yeah, I mean that's Wilton. You know, Wilton has great soccer programs,
Soccer
boys and girls. Lacrosse, their baseball team is really good too. Won a couple SEAC titles in the last 7 years. Like football was always there, obviously, but that you look across the SEAC and you see a Grant Masterson. You're like, wow, he might be the best quarterback in the SEAC. He's going to Army to play lacrosse. You know, like when Mark Ivanchik broke the all-time sacks record, everyone's like, where is he going to play football? And they're like, he's going to Princeton to play lacrosse.
True. Absolutely true.
Did he go to Penn, right?
Penn, not Princeton.
Right, Penn.
Yeah, don't get those.
Yeah, no, you can't. But, I mean, Saturday, Ridgefield, haven't won against them since 93. I was talking to Kevin after the game, Heisey. He's had brothers play. There's a Calabrese on this team. There's a lot of family members who have played in this program. And, after you get the New Canaan one, you're like, first time since 95, like, there's no way we're going to do it again. And then you do, and you break a streak that was longer. What was the, message all week with the team heading into Ridgefield? Like, hey, we already did this. So we can do this again, right?
Right. That's a lot of pressure because usually I've seen good Wilton teams go in there and just completely fall apart, or something happens and they all just kind of deflate. But yeah, what was the key to keeping their spirits up and keeping them focused on closing that game out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, during the week, I had spoken to both my coaches here, Coach Cunningham and Coach Egan, telling me more stories about, back in 2014 or 2011, we had them humbled and all the stories. And, my concern was, I try to motivate as much as I can during the week, but I give them a little something right before the game. I'll give them a story or whatever. But I'm running out of material. And I'm listening, biggest game in the history of Wilton is Darien. We're playing a number one team in the state. And, we come up short. Now, next week I have New Canaan. Hey, biggest game in the history of Wilton High School. I'm no New Rockney. So I'm like, what am I going to give them for the Ridgefield game? And all I did was I read him an email from an alumni who sent me an email. He was from the last team that beat New Canaan. And, he said, watch the New Canaan game with a tear in his eye. And he just said, make sure the kids understand what an opportunity this is against Ridgefield. It's a great rivalry. I couldn't get it done. I lost to them at Tiger Hollow by 7. And I just read him the email. And I said, go make history. You guys will be legends. You'll always be remembered for the team that broke the streak. And that's all I had for him. It was tough during the week. I tried to keep it light the first part of the week, and then I had to get to business. I actually had him in pads even on Friday, just to keep him on point. So, yeah, it was difficult to keep the level where it was. And now, listen, I got to be honest, I got 3 games left. I have Ward, I have Norwalk, I have Pomperog, and we cannot let any of those games, we can't take any of them lightly. And listen, we all know how good Norwalk is. So I got to get by Ward first, who always gives us a tough game. And then I'll worry about Norwalk. But they got, as we know, one of the best running backs in the state.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't know, Cam Edwards, he wears number 1. Just keep an eye on him.
Oh, I know. Thank you.
Coach, give me a little background on you. Tell me about how you ended up at Wilton and where you come from and just give us a little background here.
Sure. Listen, I was waiting for that question.
Sorry.
I love it. I tell my kids all the time. So I've been coaching down in Westchester for a couple of years, and then met my wife, and she's like, okay, now you need to grow up and get a real job. So I go out into the business world, and I'm working. And I was in the business world for about 23 years. And when I turned 40, I said to my wife, listen, when I turn 50, I want to go back to coaching. I said, I don't care what I have to do, but I want to go back coaching. And she said, well, we'll see about that. And so the day of my 50th birthday, I rolled over. I said, listen, I'm coaching. She goes, okay. So I apply. And the first school I applied to is Masuk. Now, I'm a Westchester guy. Yeah. Don't know much about Connecticut. So I go to Masuk, and basically the guy's like, oh, I can make you the offensive coordinator. And it was pretty appealing because they have had some struggle for years, but it was just too far. I didn't want to make the commute. So the next one, I come to Wilton High School, and I meet with Coach Cunningham. And, I respond to an assistant varsity coach. I give him my background. I told him I've been out of the game. I need to get my feet wet again. But over those 25 years, I'm the guy that watches Nevada play UNLV at midnight, and I'm writing down plays on my napkin. So Cunningham gives me the opportunity, and I'm actually coaching at the freshman level as an assistant. But as I tell my kids, it doesn't matter what you do in life. You do it 100%. You do it to the best of your ability. And that's what I did. I coached my tail off. I watched more film as a freshman coach than most do. And I had a great time. But I will tell you, halfway through the season, again, I have a conversation with my wife, and I tell her that I'm not sure if I can stay at Wilton. She goes, "What, are you kidding me?" She goes, "You love the kids? You love being back coaching." I said, "Yeah, but you know what? Guy Cunningham is he's a young guy. He's going to be there for a while. His assistant coach, Dan Farina, he's like in his 20s. I'm never going to be a coach at Wilton. I want to be a coach." She said, "Well, you think about it and you decide what you want to do. But I know you love that school and you love those kids." And sure enough, I stayed. Don't you know, Coach Cunningham resigns the following year. Coach Farina goes on to New Canaan, and none of the other coaches really were interested. So I threw my hat in the ring, and there were about 6 other applicants, and lo and behold, I get the job. Thanks to my athletic director who had a belief in me, Chris McDougall. So it's been great ever since. I absolutely love this school. I love the kids. I love the community. And listen, I'm not working for a living. I'm doing what I love. And I'll tell you, I know you said to me after the game, called me an animated coach. I was animated before COVID. But when COVID hit last year, all my guys didn't get an opportunity to play when I thought we had a really good team. I said to myself, you know what? Who knows what tomorrow brings? This may be the last time I'm on a football field. So I'm going to enjoy the heck out of it. So I coach that way. I coach practice that way. I'm running up and down. The kids, I think, they get a little bit energized from that. So that's me, and I'm going to be that way until I'm no longer coaching. So that's what
I got such a kick out of you dancing in the middle of the circle at the end of the game. Like usually coaches are in the middle. You're sitting there jumping. It was like you were at a rave. It was electric.
It was.
One of the things that I think of the unintended and maybe like the consolation you get out of the whole COVID mess and not playing last year was that a lot of people kind of appreciated it a little bit more. I think that was a really important thing. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Coach. A lot of kids that I've bumped into or coaches are just like, I'm just glad to be playing. We're just glad to be out there. The wins and losses don't really mean as much as, they do mean something, but I think that's been kind of an unintended thing. I missed it a hell of a lot last year too. So, but you mentioned your remaining schedule, and I'm looking at the Class L standings. Can you imagine? Just first of all, you're the first coach to get in there since 2 years ago, since Fujitani, which is already legendary status. And then now you're on the cusp again. You got to win 3 more, and then maybe, hopefully, everything breaks right. But it's gonna be a fun rest of the season, though. About that Pompero game, you guys got to get a Thanksgiving Day rival. What's the story there? Are we gonna get Ridgefield there? I know they're locked in with Danbury, but I heard their rumblings. I think they want to play you. And Wilton's been without a Thanksgiving rival. That's the only thing really that's missing now. I know Pompero doesn't have one either, but
no. Listen, you hit the nail on the head. Since I got here, I've been pushing. Listen, the Ridgefield game is a great game. I've heard about it before I got here. And every time that we're in it, it's a lot of fun. Listen, we're next door neighbors. It should be Thanksgiving Day. There's got to be a way we can come up with a solution, whether Greenwich plays Brunswick, and then we move a few other games around. We could play Ridgefield. That'd be fantastic. But as of right now, we don't play. We don't play on Thanksgiving. We're playing the Friday night before. So and for me, it's my whole thing is I'm trying to get the alumni back involved with Wilton. I'm trying to get some of the guys that I played 15, 20, 25 years ago back into this program, and that's one of the ways you do it. Everybody comes in on Thanksgiving, they play their little turkey game in the afternoon, but come to see our game in the morning. But you're 100% right. We need that. And I hope we can get it back, whether it's Ridgefield or somebody else, but we need to get it back.
I think Ridgefield was the natural. I know there's no juice in Ridgefield, Danbury. I know they're neighbors too, but I think Wilton, I don't know what happened because we were mixing them. They were playing, Danbury was playing Greenwich back in 03 or 02, which was weird. But Ridgefield was playing Wilton. They were playing Wilton on Thanksgiving for like 3 or 4 years. And then all of a sudden they did the whole realignment, Ludlow split. from Ward, and that was the whole mess there. And I don't know. I don't know why they said, we're going to have. I remember thinking, well, Danbury Ridgefield sounds like a good idea too. But then again, I was really young. I didn't know that was blasphemy. But I don't know how they're going to work it. Yet, if you lose one rivalry, you have to kind of go down it's like a domino thing. Yeah. You got to find someone else one, and so on and so forth. But
yep, you're right.
But anyway, you guys got a really interesting. You got Norwalk, and I think you get Norwalk, and you get the other two, and you see what happens, and away we go. And I think you look at the Class L standings. I mean, you've been in there with all these other games. I know St. Joe is sitting there, but I'm sure you guys are pretty confident. You could probably hang with them too.
Yeah, listen, it is a very confident group. We always talk about respecting every opponent we play. That's we don't fear anybody, but we certainly respect everyone. And then they saw the Darien St. Joe's score, but listen, I know St. Joe's was banged up. That wasn't a true representation of that team. Any team coached by Joe D is going to give you a battle. But yeah, we're confident. We think we can hang with anybody. And listen, Class L is a real good league this year, and it's you compare double L to L. I don't know how much of a difference there is this year.
I forgot, Coach, that was the team you played in the playoffs 2 years ago. Completely forgot about that.
So
again, you guys not unfamiliar.
Yeah, thanks.
I remember going like this. Hey, congratulations, Wilton, you made the playoffs.
Right. Consolation is you play St. Joe's, right?
Oh, too bad. But hey, you never know. The second time around, now we're in a post-pandemic season. It's like anybody's ball game. I would not be surprised to see anything like that. So
if anybody says they know what they're doing, they know what they're talking about, they're lying. Because this has just been absurd. And even I'm going to bring this up. Wake Forest is in the top 10. Former Wilton offensive lineman, first teamer for us, Matt Gublin.
Hey, look at that.
He sent me a text. It had to be, 7:00 at night. And he said, Coach, I ran off the field at Duke. I ran to my phone to see how you did. Congrats. I mean, and that's what it's all about. I got to tell you that one of the things I'm most proud of here is I think we were at 9 or 10 guys right now playing at the next level. It's Division I, II, or III. And I try to keep track of them all. But that's, football in the FCAC is the real deal. And I don't care what anybody says. This is a good conference, great league. You turn on any game on a Saturday, there's somebody from the FCAC playing it. So listen, it's a privilege to play in it. It's a privilege to coach against, as you called him, the legend of Marinelli, and the list goes on and on. It's just a whole lot of fun. This year's been great. I mean, how many games have gone to the wire?
It's been a lot. You guys are a big part of that, obviously.
I was sitting thinking, I was talking to our photographer when Ridgefield was moving down the field, and you told me after the game that you were thinking about running in and playing corner. I was saying to the photographer, he's like, so how does overtime work? I'm like, well, I go, this is how it works. But I go, the way this year's been going, like if Ridgefield does score, I think they might just go for 2. Yeah. I don't know. We have seen that so much this year, teams not even risking going overtime, trying to get the win now, or it didn't get there, but I was sitting there and I'm like trying to figure it out. I'm like, will they go for it? I don't know. And that was a great play by Wiseman at the end. It was just a wild game.
Again, Wiseman, had a touchdown that went through his hands. And I said to him after the play, I said, listen, next play, dude, it's okay. Maybe play later in the game. And sure enough, he did. There you go.
Yeah, amazing. He was wide open on that one.
Yeah. I started my run down the sideline, but I had to cut it short. I don't know if that's unfortunate or a good thing for me.
So, Coach, you got, like I said, you gotta, one more month here, maybe, hopefully, cross your fingers, win those games, and get in there, and maybe we'll get that State Show rematch. I don't know. We'll see. But hopefully, on the opposite side of the bracket. That'd be great. We appreciate you coming on. You guys are playing amazing, and I can't wait to see you in person. I gotta find it. Maybe I'll go to Norwalk. I don't know. That's next week, not this week, right? Yeah. So maybe I'll figure it out.
I met my one idol on Saturday. Now I got to meet you one day.
Oh, stop.
I told Pete I've been waiting to get on a meat grinder for 3 years, and I can't tell you how thrilled I am.
All right.
You guys do a great. Listen, my kids get onto the bus, win or lose. First thing they do is they go social media.
Yeah.
What is Pete saying? What is SPB saying about us? So we really appreciate you. Do a great job for the kids. You do a great job for high school football. Hey, listen, it's a great sport. I hope kids keep coming out and playing it. You know, the whole concussion thing really took its toll. But to me, it's the greatest sport in the world. Kids learn lifelong lessons playing it. And all the kudos to you guys for covering it the way you do. And you do it well, and I appreciate it.
Coach, it's all because you guys make it fun. So thank you. We appreciate
That's exactly it. Exactly it.
You know, you go in there and get your doors blown off by New Canaan and Ridgefield. It's the same old thing. That's not fun. This is fun. So, you know, that's what we're in this for. We're in for the upsets and the big crazy scores and kids running their phones.
It's not an upset anymore, though.
What kind of waves they're making in the state playoffs. So
it's not going to be an upset anymore. Wilton winning these games, not a surprise.
Yeah, well,
anymore.
once you get in there, you become the other team. Now you become
there you go.
If
yeah,
you live
Cinderella.
long enough, you see yourself become the villain.
Yep.
Anyway, all right, Coach. We appreciate you joining us here on the Beat Grinder. Thanks for joining us, and
my pleasure.
Good luck the rest of the way. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
So Pete, EJ DiNunzio, Wilton, playing great, but long way to go. I hope they get in. I think they deserve to get in. They're certainly one of the better teams in Class L. But as we've mentioned before, nothing is guaranteed unless you're St. Joseph in that division.
Yeah, you know, I just remember my first couple of years of doing this and you know, kind of following along of like who is good. You know, you always just assume the team that was good would, you know, be in the playoffs, and the teams that aren't in the playoffs. And I remember one year Ridgefield went 7-3, and I think Kyle Brennan was the only one who voted them in the poll. And everyone's like, wow, how is Ridgefield getting votes? They're 7-3. And he was like, they lost to Greenwich, New Canaan, and Darien. Like, it was something like that. It was something crazy like that. I think it was 2015.
Yeah.
And it was such they went 7-2, I'm sorry. And their losses were to an 8-win New Canaan and an 8-win Trinity Catholic, who both made the playoffs and both went deep. Mm-hmm. And then the next year, obviously, they went 7-3 and went to the finals. They beat West Haven in the first round in 2016.
Right.
So, unfortunately, the way the system is set up, there are going to be good teams on the outside looking in that are better than teams that are ahead. Because, and it's the same thing we bring up all the time, the schedules are not the same for everybody. Therefore, one team's playing for one thing, the other team's playing for everything. But at the end of the day, they're in the same point system, which is crap. Yes, which is 100% crap. So, you know, it's going to be interesting when we get down to it, and maybe a team like Wilton, and I'm not saying it's going to happen to them, but there could be a chance that Wilton, you know, goes 8-2 and is at home watching with wins against New Canaan and Ridgefield, you know, and their losses coming to Darien and Notre Dame. Like, that's a good team. But if they're 8-2 and the way they can't control the things that are going on around them, where they could be on the outside looking in, and we're going to be sitting here being like, Wilton's the number 7 team in the state. They have wins against New Canaan. They beat Ridgefield. They had probably the best season since Tom Fujitani was the head coach, and they're not even going to have a chance to compete for a state title.
How many Class L teams does Wilton have on its schedule?
Class L teams on Wilton's schedule.
Off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, they have 0. They have 1. They have Pomperaug.
So they have 1 Pomperaug. Okay, that wasn't off the top of your head, but all right. They got McMahon, double L. Okay, not great, but whatever. Ludlow, okay, double L. North Haven is an M. They have that. They have New Canaan, double L, 6 wins, and Ridgefield, double L, 4 wins. And then they have Darien they lost to, and they lost to Notre Dame as an M. And then they also have Ward left at double L, Norwalk, double L, and obviously Pomperaug, L. Meanwhile, on the other side of that, you have Masuk. Masuk has a bunch of L teams. Bunnell, Stratford, Hillhouse, New Milford. So they're playing an L schedule. Even lost a Hand, which is an L. Then you jump over to Hand. Hand schedule, they beat Masuk, L, Sheehan, an S, East Lyme, an L, and Bunnell, an L. So the Alliance trying to help Hand out by giving them some L schools. And then you have their losses are to Fairfield Prep, double L, New Canaan, double L, and Shelton, double L, all ranked teams. And, talk about teams that might get left home that are really good. Hand, as Bunnell found out, Hand is one of them. This point struck. My point is this. It needs to be like unified here. We need to figure out, teams you need to figure something out. This is
Well, look at Woodstock. Woodstock's sitting at 19th in the L standings. They're 5-2.
Yeah.
Their wins are against 4 Class S schools, 1 Class M school, and their losses are to a double L and an L. And they have 2 S's and an M left. Yet they're competing for a spot with a team like, Masuk, who's playing a bunch of L schools. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just.
We could do a whole show on this.
We could do an whole show, and we're not going to. No. Well, we'll just briefly take a look at the other ones quickly. Killingly 6-0 and M. Rockville, your boys.
Let's go.
Marching up the standings. Avon's got a big one with Brantford this week. That's one to look out for. They're 3-4 in that standings. Granby Canton's kind of falling back a little bit. They get Valley, and they have some winnable games here, but then they also have Coggeshall, and it's going to be a big one on the 19th in Class M. Plainville, I was shocked at losing to Ram, which was struggling, and they've fallen back a bit, opening up the bracket. Coggeshall with also having a little bit of a struggle here. Rockville beating them up. Ellington, I was shocked at falling to Gilbert Northwestern Hoosie. Falling to them, they dropped down to 8th, and you have Torrington, Law, Barlow, Notre Dame, West Haven, which, despite the loss, hopefully Pacoda comes back. They got Xavier, Hand, and Hampton left. They win all those 3. I guarantee they're in the playoffs. So very interesting with M. And
Look at Jonathan Law sitting there at the 10th. That's an SEC school in Class M who has a double L, and they have 2 M's left, but they've played L's. They're playing double L's. And it's like, what are we doing?
Some teams have a hard road and some teams don't. And the point systems don't do anything with that. And we need less math, not more, right? We don't
Especially
need
for us.
enough math. We need to let the kids play on the field and win it on the field. You want to win it?
Yeah, down with math. Let's stop teaching math in school.
No.
Is that not what we're talking about?
No. Keep teaching math, but let's not need it for playoffs. Football is supposed to be a diversion from that. Anyway, and finally, Class S, before we get out of here, Bloomfield 7-0, Ansonia 8-0 with the Derby forfeit now. Cromwell, Portland 6-0. New Fairfield, Seymour, Morgan, Notre Dame, Fairfield. Those are your 1-loss teams up to 7th. Notre Dame, Fairfield, and New Fairfield, a big game, especially for the Lancers to prove that they're for real. But that'll be an interesting one. New Fairfield.
But then look at 9. We have Sheehan, who has a double L and an L school. 2 winnable games. How many points is Sheehan going to get? It's going to be a lot. Yeah, they're going to catapult some 1-loss teams.
Holy Cross and Seymour is going to end up being a big game in a couple weeks. And then Woodland's obviously playing at Sonia this week. They also face Naugatuck and Seymour Woodland. So it could be, curtains for them. And then Rocky Hill still hanging in there. Stafford, your boys, Ledger's falling off a bit. They need to win quickly, and they're probably not going to get a lot of points. So that's what it looks like. I'm liking my boys from Morgan's chances, by the way, to win out and get into this whole thing. So there you go, Drew. Anyway, so there's so much stuff. We got a lot to talk about later on. We got a lot of playoff stuff to consider. You got Shelton and Prep this week, and you got Maloney and Hall. It's going to be a nice start to November here as we head down the stretch of the 2021 high school football season. So, Pete, that'll do it, huh? For you?
Yeah, I think that was a lot of information.
Yeah, this one was a grind. Okay, for people, I'm Sean Patrippoli. Let's get the heck out of here. This has been the Meatball Grinder on GameTimeCT.
Love you.